Tonight, an update on a WECT Investigates report. Tonight, for the first time, New Hanover County Sheriff Ed McMahon is going on camera addressing concerns and some changes surrounding his office's use of flock cameras.
Now, flock cameras are those controversial automated license plate readers. They typically use AI to capture details like make, model, color, and other information of every car that passes by. WECT's investigative reporter Connor Smith heard from the sheriff today. Now, Connor, Sheriff McMahon announced changes about how his department is actually handling the data with flock cameras.
Yeah, that's right. And those changes include how long the data on your car is stored in their system, how often that information is reviewed, and a new portal the office says will help with transparency.
The public deserves to know not only what tools we use, but how we are using them.
New Hanover County Sheriff Ed McMahon addressing the controversial cameras stirring a nationwide debate.
This technology helps us solve crimes, find people in danger, and keep our communities safe. But it must always be used responsibly.
Advocates say flock cameras or license plate readers help solve crimes. Critics say they're an unconstitutional invasion of your privacy. Sheriff McMahon read a prepared statement to me Monday morning addressing some of those concerns.
We understand that with technology comes an expectation of transparency and accountability. And that's why we're taking additional steps to strengthen public confidence in how the system is being used.
The sheriff detailed new changes on how long they plan to store the information captured from flock cameras across New Hanover County. That data will now only be held for 30 days instead of 90 days. The sheriff will also do a monthly audit of flock data instead of just once per year.
Our responsibility is to strike the right balance between protecting public safety and protecting the public's trust. We believe these additional measures strengthen both.
McMahon says they're also closely monitoring employees' use of the system and its data. If someone misuses the flock system, the sheriff says they could be fired and prosecuted.
Abuse of this technology will not be tolerated.
The sheriff's office has also rolled out this public portal, which includes flock information and records.
Technology should never operate without accountability.
Now, I do want to note we asked the sheriff's office for an on-camera interview about flock several times over the last 2 months. Last Friday, the sheriff agreed to speak with me, but would only read a prepared statement, which you heard in this story. The sheriff said he would not answer any of my questions. But as a news organization and as an investigative journalist, it is our job to ask tough questions to the leaders in our community. To Sheriff McMahon's credit, he did answer one of my follow-up questions today, clarifying that online portal has already launched. But when I followed up with another question, the sheriff pulled off his mic and walked out of the interview, as you can see. John, some of the questions I planned on asking today was to ask the sheriff about the location of those cameras, which agencies the data is shared with, and any specific cases the cameras have helped with, among plenty of other questions. The WECT Investigates team will keep trying to get you answers.
And Connor, let's let folks know that they can watch the sheriff's full statement. We have it right now inside the story in the WECT News app. Appreciate the update. Thanks.